The battles of Total War Warhammer are where you command your forces to glorious victory or bitter defeat against your enemies. Armies vie for control of the battlefield, which differs depending on where on the campaign map you initiate battle. Victory will only yield to the commander who understands the virtue of smart tactics, prudent battlefield wisdom, and decisive action. There are many tactics and unit individualities you can employ to achieve victory. We will explain the most important of those in this video. The Winds of Magic provides an army with the power it needs to cast spells on the battlefield. Before the deployment phase begins, you will have the option to gamble on the Winds of Magic, allowing the winds to change. If you gamble successfully, the number will increase, giving you more available magic at the start of battle. However, it can swing the other way, giving you less. Such is the nature of the gamble. The deployment phase is a vital part of battle planning. Effective unit placement can make a battle much easier to win. To position units during the deployment phase, you must first select them by left-clicking them, or by holding left-click and dragging a selection across the terrain. You can hold down right-click and drag out a selection on the terrain to place a unit into the desired position. Certain units that possess the Vanguard ability can be deployed outside the deployment zone away from your main army. This enables you to place them in tactically advantageous locations on the battlefield to set up ambushes or advanced flanking maneuvers, for example. During the deployment phase, you should also take the terrain into consideration. For example, a defender may choose to invite the enemy unto them, in which case it is an effective tactic to place their units on higher ground. An advancing army marching or charging uphill will become tired, making them less effective in combat. You could also place them in forest cover, where some units can remain hidden, ready to launch a battlefield ambush. If there are additional forces supporting your main army when you enter a battle, they will enter the field as reinforcements. You can see what direction they will enter the battlefield from the radar map. All the important information about each of the units in your army can be viewed on their unit info panels. Select a unit or unit card and hit the Toggle Unit Info button to have its info panel appear on the left-hand side of the screen. The number of individuals in a unit, its kill count in the battle, and its experience level are all displayed in the section beneath the strengths and weaknesses. Beneath that is the list of all the unit's battle statistics, which determine its effectiveness in battle. Finally, at the bottom are the attribute, spell, and ability icons, all of which can be moused over to show detailed information in a tooltip. Units and groups of units are moved by selecting them and right-clicking on the terrain. A single right-click orders a march to that location. The movement path of any unit will display as a yellow line on the terrain when the mouse is hovered over that unit or its card. Double right-click on the terrain to select a movement location to run to, or use the Toggle Unit Speed button, which switches a unit between walking and running. Be aware that prolonged periods of continuous running or fighting will tire a unit out, reducing its combat effectiveness. You can see the state of a unit's vigor on its tooltip. Holding down the space bar during a battle shows current unit orders and their destinations as yellow arrows and markers on the terrain. If you initiated the attack, the onus is on you to defeat the enemy army before the battle timer runs down to 0. If you are the defender, you only need to keep your units alive and active until the timer runs out, which would then award you with victory. The pace of the battle can be controlled from the battle speed controls. Here you can pause the battle, slow it to half speed, or increase the speed. With a unit or group selected, right-click on an enemy to march there and attack, or double right-click to order a charge. It is advisable to avoid initiating a charge too early, as this will tire your unit. An effective charge knocks enemies back and can cause significant leadership shocks when used effectively. A charge is most effective when carried out with heavy cavalry or melee troops that specialize in damage output. A flanking maneuver is when a unit is directed to move around the side of a main combat zone to attack an enemy from their side or rear, usually while they are already engaged in combat with another unit. A correctly timed charge from the flank with the right unit can cause a massive leadership shock to the enemy, increasing the likelihood that they will rout. Flanking is effective when carried out with fast-moving units, such as mounted units. By far the most effective at flanking are flying units. They are able to bypass enemy ground units to then descend and attack from the side or rear. There are several different classes of units in the game. The most effective forces have a carefully selected army composition, with an appropriate number of different unit types in their ranks which can benefit one another. The type of weapon a unit holds, and hence its unit class, can be identified by the image on their flag. Melee infantry troops wield weapons such as swords, spears, or axes, and are the staple troops of any army. They are used to close the distance on the enemy to engage them face to face. They will generally be weak to missile fire, but can be more resistant to all types of damage if armored or shielded, which makes them useful to attract aggression to draw fire, provide cover, or create a distraction for other weaker troops. Melee units with spears or polearms are generally better at defending against mounted or large units. Heavy weapons are generally useful for armor piercing. Missile infantry troops are equipped with weapons such as bows, crossbows, and firearms. They are used to inflict damage from range, peppering the enemy with projectiles. They are generally very weak if the enemy closes the distance and engages them in melee, so should be kept away from direct combat whenever possible. If possible, keep them behind your front line, so that they stay protected as they inflict damage on the enemy. They usually have less armor and weaponry than melee infantry troops, so can generally traverse the battlefield faster. Mounted, creature-riding troops generally have smaller unit sizes but move much faster than units on foot. They also have significantly better charge capabilities. Their overall maneuverability makes them ideal for rapid flanking maneuvers or sudden charges from ambush positions, but they are generally less effective in prolonged melee combat, especially against units who wield spears or elongated weapons. Lords and heroes are single combatants who possess devastating attacks, as well as additional spells and abilities to use in battle. Single combatants can also exist as gargantuan, lumbering monsters. These are very powerful melee combatants with splash damage attacks. They are generally very slow-moving, but also cause fear to enemy units, which reduces their leadership rating and increases the likelihood that they will rout. Some lords and heroes can cast powerful spells, which have a variety of functions to aid their army's cause. The spells available to a selected character can be seen at the bottom of the unit info panel, represented by spell icons alongside ability and attribute icons. The spell's activation buttons will also appear in the bottom right of the screen whenever a spellcaster is selected. They are located around the Winds of Magic power indicator. Hovering the mouse over the spell button shows all relevant information about the spell in a tooltip. Spells require sufficient Winds of Magic power to be available before they can be cast. The Power Orb, is the basis of all spellcasting. Every spell has a cost, which will be deducted from the large number in the center of the orb. This number will slowly recharge over the course of a battle, depleting your reserves, shown here. When your reserves are empty, the power orb will not recharge. When the power orb is depleted, no more magic can be cast. Spells can be used to carry out devastating attacks on your foes, augment your allies, or hex the enemy to weaken them. Lords and heroes can perform special abilities, which aid their army in several different ways. The abilities available to a selected character can be seen at the bottom of the unit info panel, represented by ability icons, alongside spell and attribute icons. The ability activation buttons will also appear in the bottom left of the screen whenever a unit with an ability is selected. They are located around the unit portrait. Hovering the mouse over an ability button shows all relevant information about it in a tooltip. Abilities can be used to carry out special attacks, grant bonuses to allies, or hex the enemy to weaken them. Guard mode is used to prevent your units from relentlessly hunting down any enemies they are engaged in combat with. For example, while your units are in combat, if the enemy they are fighting routs or retreats, then your troops will pursue them until given a different order. Toggling guard mode on prevents this from happening. It also ensures that they hold their defensive positions and defend themselves against anything that engages them. Skirmish mode ensures that your missile troops always try to keep their distance from any nearby or advancing enemies, avoiding melee confrontations as much as possible. Skirmishing is a key feature of missile troops because they are generally very weak against melee engagements. Be aware that too much skirmishing will result in the unit tiring, reducing its vigor and making it less effective in combat. All ranged units have the Fire at Will option, which, when toggled on, ensures that they automatically fire on any enemy that enters its fire arc. Once it is toggled off, they will avoid firing at all times. The Fire at Will feature is useful if you wish to be more prudent with your ammunition in battle. When you have a portion of your army's units selected, you can press the Group button to create a selection group. Selection groups are useful to split an army into regiments for quick selection, which can be given separate attack or movement orders. For example, you can create numbered selection groups according to unit type, which can be given separate attack or movement orders from one another. Quickly select any group by pressing the relevant number on the keyboard. If you want your selection group to hold their position in formation as you give them orders, you can press the Toggle Group Lock key. You can open the tactical map by pressing the Tab key, or by selecting the button in the top right of the battle HUD. Scrolling the mouse wheel all the way back will also open the tactical map. The tactical map allows you to see the battlefield from a top-down perspective, showing the position of your units and any visible enemy units on the map, as well as showing any battlefield obstacles and basic topography. While in the tactical map, you can select units and give them movement or attack orders as normal. You can scroll forward as much as possible with the mouse wheel to exit the tactical map. Holding down the spacebar also reveals the UI options panel. This can be used to customize all aspects of your battle interface, such as icons, stat bars, selection markers, and banners, amongst other things. Siege battles occur when you attack walled settlements. To win, the attacker must destroy all the enemy forces or capture the victory point that lies beyond the walls. As the attacker, you can use or construct towers, or have your units use ladders to scale the walls. You can also use artillery to destroy walls and create breaches. You can use rams, artillery, or some monstrous infantry to break down the gates and allow your troops to get through. As a defender, you can station infantry along the walls to defend it from scaling attackers. If they are missile units, they will fire down as the enemy approaches. The defender can also use towers built into the battlements to fire on the attackers. Simply station an infantry unit near to the tower to activate it. It can then be directed where to fire by selecting it. You are now armed with a comprehensive understanding of tactics and battlefield acumen. Yet remember, every battle is different, and each fight will require you to keep your wits about you and adapt to the situation. With this information at your disposal and a sharp tactical mind, you will see victory in the field again and again.